What we have here is a new design for a potion brewer. I won't claim it's a particularly good design, but it did fit my specific needs, which was something I was having trouble with the designs that were out there on the internet. I saw a lot of designs that were good for mass producing potions, but none that really handled things at the casual scale of just wanting to brew 3 potions for a particularly important fight or underwater mining or whatever small task you have, as opposed to other ones that would brew a lot of potions and weren't particularly flexible on the type that they brewed. You'd kind of have to reprogram the whole machine in order to make it brew something else, and I tend to just need different potions that I want to be able to control which one the machine is making very easily from the outset. Uh, Aside from that, of course, I don't want to have to babysit it. That's the whole point of the automatic brewer. And then my particular goals were that I did need it to fit into this template of a particular shape and size. So that was a constraint put upon me by the build that I was going to be adding this to. And then I also just wanted it to have minimal exterior redstone, which was another problem that a lot of the builds had from my perspective. So I ended up with something that was particularly easy to use, essentially as far as maintenance goes. There's a dispenser back here that needs to be full of glass bottles, and there's a hopper up here that needs to be filled with nether wart. Aside from that, the brewing stand keeps itself full of awkward potions, skipping the first step that pretty much every potion has. And when it's done, it'll put things down into this barrel. So let's show off how we use this thing. This top hopper is the ingredient hopper, and you can put your ingredients into it in the sequence that they should be brewed, which is something that you do have to know and keep track of. So as we see, they don't go down into the brewing stand just yet. First, we have to press this button. So pressing the button kicks off this whole process. The ingredients start to descend one by one and get brewed up in the brewing stand into whatever you want. In this case, we're going to be making some splash potions of healing. So once one ingredient finishes, now that the hopper is unlocked, the next ingredient will fall into place as we just saw. Great. However, what we will also see happen is that once this gunpowder empties out of this hopper here will put a single nether wart up here. So this will empty out and then very quickly fill in again with one nether wart. We'll see that happen now, and there we go. So now this nether wart is only being kept up here because this gunpowder is in place. Once this gunpowder finishes brewing, we'll see the nether wart descend. That will signal that this is done brewing, that our potions are finished, and that will mean that these will empty out and new water bottles will fill in, combining with the nether wart to make our awkward potion. Our finished potions are now in the barrel, and we're about to be back to where we started, which is great for when you're just making small batches and don't want to have to reconfigure an entire machine just to make a couple potions. So how does this whole thing work? Well, while I did fulfill my aesthetic goals on the exterior of keeping things kind of minimalistic for this type of device, I will say that the redstone in the background is a little bit more messy. What we have here is a lot of different components that I will go through in the order that they are triggered. So first off, we have this yellow line here. It is hooked up to the button, which is right behind this piece of wood. What this does is it activates a T flip-flop. That is what is keeping the top hopper locked, so that while you load the ingredients, they don't just start descending immediately, giving you time to actually put in what you want before it starts getting whisked away. So, great, you press the button and it unlocks. What happens next, or in fact what has already started happening, is that this component is triggered. This blue component is reading the state of the hopper on top constantly. The ingredient hopper right now is empty because we are not doing anything. So both these torches are off. That is key. Once we load anything into the top hopper, this comparator activates, sending off this T flip-flop and this line of redstone so that both these torches turn on. This central section will actually cycle through all the 4 different states of one of these torches being on while the other one is off, both being on, both being off. So right now we're in the both being off state, and then it cycles to both being on, and then cycles through the other 2 states. What we do with the rest of this redstone is read these 2 states of these 2 torches and trigger certain other components depending on what they say. So what we want to have happen is when the hopper empties of those ingredients, that means it's time for that piece of nether wart to go in. So at the torch state that it's going to be in at that time, which will be at that point, it will be top torch off, bottom torch on. That is when we want the nether wart to be triggered. So we have this AND gate set up with inversions so that it turns on at exactly that time. Then with that AND gate active, this component is triggered, which sends the very short pulse to this that releases exactly 1 nether wart, no more, no less. That then waits in the top hopper. But since it went into the top hopper, that means that we have changed the comparator state again, and this device cycles to the next state. Now that next state is not particularly useful and doesn't activate anything. But when the brewer is done with the final ingredient and that nether wart in the top hopper is able to go down, as we saw, this changes state once more. And with everything emptied out, what we want to have happen is to move our potions to the barrel so the water bottles can go in. That means that that torch state that is tied to triggers this inverted AND gate to turn on this gray section of redstone. This gray section takes the on state of the redstone torch and outputs a short pulse that then gets lengthened into exactly 14 redstone ticks, which is exactly how long this bottom hopper needs to be unlocked for to fully empty out into the barrel from the brewing stand. Now, that's very good, but the problem is that if we just unlocked this side hopper, which is full of water bottles ready to go in, would start unloading as soon as this started unloading. And that would lead to a messed up state where we have some potions that are finished in here and then 1 water bottle here, maybe somewhere in the hopper in the barrel. So we need to lock this at the same time that this is unlocked. So we can see that that is also set up to happen here with the gray wire triggered by this component, locks it up for the exact same time that this is being unlocked. Great, so now we have unlocked the bottom hopper, we've emptied out our finished potions, and we have dispensed in new water bottles. However, now this hopper is no longer full for the next time, so this dispenser needs to go off. That is accomplished by reading the comparator state of that hopper with the water bottles in it. Anytime it is not full, this will start up a clock here that triggers the dispenser to fill up these glass bottles with water and then shoot them out into the hopper, filling it back up. Once it's full, this turns off, and we're back to where we started. So overall, the biggest challenge with this build was timing, having to figure out the exact pulse length that only dispenses 1 piece of nether wart, having to figure out the exact pulse length for emptying out this while not getting any extra water bottles into the mix. So I would like to save someone else the effort of trying to figure these things out on their own, which is why I'm putting out this video, and also just because it was quite a learning experience and there might be some lessons to garner from this whole build here if you wanted to take a poke around and see how it does. All these components are essentially just things that I found already out there, combined up into a overall functional device, but that device has a use that, while pretty niche to me, is probably general enough that someone else out there might want to build it. So I'll put it out there as a link in the description for the world download. The build is at these coordinates so that you can take a look at it at your leisure and see how it works under the hood and copy it if you want to. I will also mention that this device can handle builds of potions that are fully as many ingredients as you can use due to the hopper size, so there's no real limitation on this. The only thing I would say to be concerned about if you are going to build this is that if you load it up as I have just done, and then you try to interrupt it from that point once you've put something in this top hopper, because of the way that it reads the state of that hopper, you'll actually kind of disrupt this whole thing, and you'll generate 3 junk potions, but it will go back to the ground state. You'll just have 3 useless potions. So that's the only real thing I would say to be wary of. If you are going to build this, don't fill this up and then take things out. If you put things in here, make sure that you brew something. All right, that is the summary of how this device works. I hope that you found it interesting, and thank you for watching.